This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 1045, recorded on Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. Snakes on a train? Hey everyone, I am Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we will fill your head with monkeys, kangaroos, and snakes. But first, thanks to our amazing Patreon sponsors for their generous support of TWIS. You can become a part of the Patreon community at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer! When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect for their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science.
Man, Kiki, what an interesting disclaimer. Where'd you come up with that woke Antifa slop, huh?
Well, it's from this document. It's been around for a little while. You can find it online even, but, they have paper copies of it in Washington, D.C., the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, all right. Yeah. It did sound familiar to me.
Yeah, a little bit of familiarity there, huh?
Yeah, and I can't wait for people to be angry that you read the Declaration of Independence.
I can read whatever I want in the disclaimer.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, yeah, I love it. What an appropriate choice. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, I was thinking the other, others are Congress shall make no law prohibiting, whatever related to the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, the freedom. I watched Pump Up the Volume recently, and that got me back into some of that 1990s era Gen X angst fully, but yeah, it's fascinating that movies that are decades old now, that documents that are hundreds of years old, that I don't know. We need to keep looking back at our history to understand where we are now and why
repeats
we're here.
Itself, whether we study it or not. So it's important that we study it and we are aware of it, so that when it does repeat itself, we can see things coming and we can maybe do something about it before things get scary. Well,
right. It's already scary, but it's
Yeah,
still
what's the right word I'm looking
before
for?
it's too late.
Like, I don't know, like nation ending would be good.
Yeah.
That's, I suppose we could all have a new boss, but
Yeah.
what?
There's
I don't
a
know.
there's a story out, I haven't looked into it significantly, but, some researchers did an analysis of how many scientists have been lost from the federal government in the last year, and, it's over 10,000 scientists have been
Oh my
lost from the
god.
federal government, many of the like, across all departments that, we have many more scientists, and there's a graphic that's going around on social media related, that shows the disparity between losses to gains, and
Oh, okay.
it's just massive numbers of y and and people are worried about, "Oh, the future of science and, what are grad students gonna do, and where
Mhm.
are the new scientists gonna go?" But the thing that really concerns me in addition to that is experience, is the knowledge gained from careers in federal
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
The institutional knowledge is completely it's decimated. So our country's research institutions no longer have the like your bench, right? You don't have a deep bench of experience to call up
Right.
to the plate. And so
Yeah.
that's not gonna come back very easily because a lot of people have taken jobs in industry, a lot because they're, federal government jobs are not the high paying ones. So with all that experience, they can go make more money working other places. They were doing good work working for the federal government, and helping in terms of research. But the vilification of science and of
Huh.
scientists in the United States, the underappreciation of science, is it's not it's going to come back and bite us in the butt. Everybody,
I mean,
I mean, come on.
it's yeah, it's gonna happen quickly, also because the other part of that scares me as well is that the science that will get funded is going to support narratives that are supposed to be supported, right? And so, like,
Mhm.
is there going to be an unrealistic weight of certain research papers over others for funding, for
Mhm.
publishing, for all these things?
For sure.
Where how long is it going to take us to resuss what certain kind of bodies of research are and are not, who funded them, what the
Yeah.
review process was, and what is replicable and what is not. Like, how long are we going to have to go back through the last several years at this, when we're finally out of this hellish administration? Like, how long is it going to take us to go back through as a scientific community and weed through all of the research that happened that came out of federal funding over the however many
Mhm.
years and figure out what is real and what is not?
Yeah. I mean, that it's a huge question because as of this month, many of the NSF and NIH, um, assessment committees have been disbanded. They aren't supporting those anymore. So working groups of experienced researchers who have been helping to assess grants, helping to assess the state of research in certain areas, to help advise on priority and on methodologies, those groups are no longer being convened or supported.
Right.
And they may go about doing it on their own because scientists care about the state of science and scientists want things it is a community activity. It's not like, and that's one of the things that has come out more and more over the years is where we used to really celebrate the lone scientist
Oh, sure.
working
Yeah.
so hard
Yeah.
in that tower of academia, right? Like Rapunzel, but the scientists just wouldn't, throw down their lab coat. Um, instead of the hair. Yeah, I'm making a bad joke, but but we have seen that the best research is happening when you have large groups of scientists
Yeah.
working together who are looking at the data together, who are asking the questions, figuring out the mechanism, the methods, everything. Big science is a big deal. And the way that it's going now is going to put that onus on the universities who are being diminished by the federal
Yeah.
government, on the scientist employees of universities, because where do scientists work? At research institutions. Research institutions, for the most part, are universities and not just private institutions with private money. So they're putting the onus on these individuals and the institutions to do that work for their community on their own. And it's even more work. Yeah.
Yeah, where does the money come from, and
Mhm.
what do they have to do during their day job to be able to support themselves if they're not getting paid for the scientific work that they're doing? Yeah.
And on top of it, so do the scientific work, be paid for
Uh-huh.
that. You
Yeah.
have to also support all of the staff and the students who work in your labs. You also need to do free assessment of scientific papers and research
Right.
in your field. You
Yep.
also need to do free science communication, because that is not supported by anybody.
No.
So basically, as a scientist, you have, the job you're paid for, but you are being asked to do all this extra work. So like when scientists talk about working 80-hour weeks, it's not a joke. And that 80-hour week is paid for a 40 to 50-hour week.
Right.
They're doing 80, 90 hours of work, but paid at 40 to 50.
Yeah.
So and they could get paid more if they get more grants or if they get better funding deals. But it's a hard place to be, and it's not going to get any easier coming forward. And the whole idea that scientists are like rolling in money and these biased individuals,
Yeah. And they're
everybody
like elitist.
biased.
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, it's exactly
whatever.
the opposite. Oh goodness. Well, luckily we're here tonight to celebrate some of that science.
Yeah. Yay. So yes. Thank you for talking with me about this, Blair,
Of
though, because
course.
talking about it helps me to release some of the pent up angst and anxiety. So to everyone out there who's hearing us talk about this, I hope that you go have conversations with people about it as well, because the more we share and the more we talk about it, the better we'll all feel.
Yeah.
So let's have science for every conversation meal.
Yes, and ultimately, things are bad. Things are bad. I'm not
Really
gonna
not good.
sit. No, I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, it's not bad," or "We'll get out of this," or "We're gonna be better on the other side." None of that is true. Okay, things are bad right now, and they're just bad right now, and we're allowed to be upset that they are bad right now. But also, you're no good to anybody swirling in a pool of negativity. Okay, and so take the time to know what's going on. Take time to grieve the loss of whatever loss you're feeling. The idea that you lived in a nation that was free, the idea that, people could be treated equally, the idea that you have bodily safety in certain situations where you no longer have it. Grieve those things, okay? But ultimately take time to still do the things you enjoy, figure out what those things are, because we are still humans moving through space who can support each other and still find things to enjoy in our days. And so I love talking about science and animals, and that's why I still do this show, even if I am sick and tired. I want to talk to Kiki and all of you about some cool animal stuff.
And we have some good animals.
Darn it, we're going to do that. We're going to have this slice of fun. We're all going to learn some things, and it's going to give us some passion to move forward.
I like
Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, because joy is resistance.
Yes.
Wherever you find joy, you are experiencing a moment that is in conflict with what the dominant paradigm would like you to feel. They want you to feel despondent, to
Yeah.
feel the uncertainty and chaos and not do anything. Let's feel joy
Isolate.
together. We're together. We got
Powerless.
we got a
Guess what?
community around science.
Yes.
Let's keep going, everybody.
We have power. We have a
Yep.
voice. All of us have a voice. Let's use them.
Yep.
Something Kiki and I are pretty good at, I think. So let's go.
All right. So on this show tonight, I have stories about doom. No, I'm not going to talk about the doom. Okay. I'm going to I think we've talked enough actually, doomish. So I'm going to we're not doomed. We're not really doomed. We can deal with this. So I've got some good science related to a new vaccine, electric vehicles, snakes on trains, and heavy hoppers.
Ooh.
A little bit of language in the brain and some other brain stuff and the science of dread.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff. We'll see.
Judge Dredd? Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
DREAD, not DRDD. DREDD.
DREDD. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What do you have in the animal corner, Blair?
Oh my goodness. Well, before we get into the animal corner, I'm going to talk about pollen for a minute. It's not related to this right now, but otherwise
It could
appropriate.
be. It's such a warm
Who knows?
winter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But then I think this is the first time ever we have a triple monkey block in Blair's Animal Corner. The Animal Corner is chock full of monkeys. We got a barrel of monkeys. So that's what I have today. I can't wait to talk all about monkeys today. And not apes, monkeys.
I know, all monkeys. I'm so excited.
Oh.
And they're like different monkeys.
Yeah.
Each story is different monkeys. It's so good.
That's great. So if you're a primate person, listen up.
All right, everybody, as we jump into the show, I just want to remind you that we are found on just about every podcast platform that is out there. So if you want to listen to this as an edited podcast, head over to wherever you find podcasts and subscribe or tell your friends to do the same. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time-ish. Streaming live, but those recordings of our live shows are there so you can watch them whenever you want. And if you want more information, show notes, all sorts of information, just head over to TWIS, TWIS.org, twis.org. That's where you find stuff about our Patreon and our Zazzle store. We love your support. Please share because that shows you care. But now it's time for the science. Woo! You ready?
Yes. What do you got?
All right. So the sniffles that we've got right now, these sniffles, they're not COVID, right?
No.
It's not
tested, COVID free.
It's not COVID. But if it were COVID, or if you still needed to be vaccinated for COVID.
Well, and we all do every 6 months. So
right. So hopefully sometime soon, this new vaccine will be available. Not yet tested on humans, tested on mice so far. A new nasal vaccine. So just a nasal spray. It was shown to be resistant to provide resistance against all of the Omicron variants. So they were able to take a macrocyclic peptide, and it inhibits a really wide range of SARS-CoV-2 variants and sub-variants, not just Omicron, but it is able to lock the spike protein into a closed conformation so that it cannot bind. So the spike protein, if you have the vaccine that comes in, it creates these structures that lock it up so that it is unable to bind to when the SARS-CoV-2 actually is infecting you. So it disrupts binding between the S and the ACE2 receptor, and the modifications actually exhibit prophylactic, which is preventative, and therapeutic effects. So once you're infected, and this is in mice, but this is exciting because it's not just, every 6 months, go get a vaccine, and maybe it's an inhalable one. But if you have COVID and you could go and have this, and it could help to reduce the level of
Oh,
infection within your body.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So is the vaccine itself is completely novel, or it's really just the delivery system is novel?
It's both.
Okay.
So they have, yeah, so it's both. They've been able to actually take this new, so we've been talking a lot over the last few years about inhalable vaccines,
Right.
that a nasal spray is gonna be something that a lot of people might like much more than a needle
Yes.
because there's
Yeah.
so much, like, needle phobia in the
Yeah.
world, and
Well, I
so if
also
you're more and
you need less, like you don't
yes.
have to have the same level of medical professional administering them. A lot
Mhm.
easier to administer a nasal spray.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about sharps, right? Which is great.
Mhm.
But also, like dogs get kennel cough vaccines up the nose.
Yes. Yeah.
So they've had those for years. But I'm wondering if the dosage is the same because since you're delivering it directly to the nasal turbinates, it could potentially be less, right?
Yes, so that's something that they still need to determine in humans, but the
Okay.
dosage and the delivery system that they used on mice was successful
Okay.
in
Because
inhibiting
that's the other thing is like
infection and in treating. Yeah.
I know a lot of people are very hesitant to get the COVID vaccine because there are people who have pretty strong responses to the vaccine every single time,
Mhm.
which again, it means it's working. But
Yeah.
but I'm wondering if you could do a smaller dose because it's going directly to your nose. If that would reduce side effects, that would also be a good selling point for it potentially.
And I think that's the thing about the nasal sprays for vaccines for respiratory illnesses. So COVID, flu, RSV, whatever it is that everybody's got right now,
Yes.
that because of the locational specificity, it actually is the dosage doesn't need to be as high because the vaccine is actually targeting the cells that are the ones that will be primarily infected during the
Right.
infection, the phase of infection, because respiratory viruses you most often inhale,
Yeah.
or you wipe your nose or you wipe your eyes, and it gets into your respiratory tract. Um, and so it has been shown that the injectables, because it has to be systemic and goes through
Right.
the body, like you said, that they have to be higher dosage, that it has to be like often multiple doses.
Right.
And maybe it's the kind of thing that with inhalable vaccines, maybe we don't have to take them every 6 months. Maybe like we don't know that yet, but these are the kinds of questions um,
Right.
that come about. So I love the idea. Some people, so
Yeah.
Kevin Reardon in the chat is saying, I like getting poked and by needles too. Um, so some people, so if you do allergy sprays or saline rinses, or a lot of people are used to nasal sprays at this point. But how great for kids, for all sorts
Yes.
of people
Oh man,
to have,
kids.
I have a feeling that the nasal sprays are going to be very popular, but it's not like it's a one or the other thing. Why not both? Why not all the things? We need as many tools in the toolkit as possible, right?
Kiki, are you trying to add more vaccines to children? Because I'm pretty sure the opposite is happening right now.
Oh, and right. But speaking of the vaccines, did you hear about the Western Health Alliance?
No.
So California, Oregon, and Washington
I
have
did hear about this.
aligned
Oh, yes.
together. And so even though the CDC and the federal government are stepping back from the World Health Organization and stepping back from previous vaccine recommendations, the Western Vaccine Alliance or Western Health Alliance has announced that they are standing with the Physicians Association and its recommendations for continuing and maintaining the older CDC standards, the
Yes.
older vaccine standards. And so, additionally, California is stepping up and joining the World Health
Yes.
Organization independently
Yes.
of the United States. This is the first time a state has joined the World Health Organization. Oof,
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more of first times for
oof.
a state to
Yeah.
be doing things coming up.
Well, it's going to be the climate change stuff. California,
Yeah,
a bunch of the
which
states
we
that are
already did the first time Trump was in office.
yeah,
So
it's already started there. Now it's just moving to health. But yeah,
that's
this
great.
is
You said California, Oregon, and Washington.
Oregon, Washington. Yes.
So this is we're getting a step closer to Ecotopia. I'm so excited.
Mhm. Yeah. Some people up here in Oregon and Washington, they call it Cascadia.
Oh, sure.
But yeah.
It's less problematic than the out of print novel from the 70s, I will grant you.
Yeah.
Some things did not age well
Some things
from that
didn't
book,
age-
but I just think about it all the time that they had this tall wall across all of the states, and they seceded and made their own country when this.
Oh my gosh, like
doesn't matter.
Like the southern border wall, but it would be like the western states wall.
Yeah, like you stay over there. We're taking care of things over here. Don't
Why
worry
is
about
it always a wall?
It's
Like a wall is really going to do anything. I mean, we're not
know.
like the ice wall, right? Like Game of Thrones.
Oh,
That
yeah,
worked
yeah.
so well. Jeez.
It's always
Anyway.
walls. It's all humans can think of. We like to put things in
Build a
boxes
wall.
and draw lines, and it's anyway. Do you want to talk more about the sniffles?
Yeah.
While we're at it, I don't know why. There's something in my brain about Alan, but I love Alan's stories. I don't know why. Like it just there's something charming about it. But I'm talking about artificial light at night and just how like the way they've named it Alan. It just sounds like a very
Hey, Alan.
polite British man always in my brain. But Alan, he's kind of like this bumbling British guy who's just messing everything up accidentally. Like we're not doing it on purpose. We're humans who like to do things at night and it's dark. So we have lights. But artificial light at night messes everything up. And so, obviously it has been well documented. It messes with migration patterns. It messes with nocturnal animals. It messes with pollinators. It messes with all sorts of things. But the latest study tells us, this is coming out of the northeastern United States, looking at cities there, that over 12 years of pollen data, they found that higher exposure to artificial light at night, Alan, was significantly associated with earlier pollen season start, later season ends, and longer overall pollen seasons, even after accounting for temperature and precipitation. Whoa. Additionally, areas with artificial light at night had more days classified as severe allergen exposure, 27% of pollen season days reaching severe levels, and areas without Alan, 17%. It's a pretty big change. So if it's bright out, it's going to confuse the plants, just like it confuses the animals. It can disrupt pollen release. Now, the reason that I thought this was especially interesting is that it is, I'm just make sure I'm right about this. Yes, January.
Yes.
And the ground around my neighborhood,
floors.
The earth floors is what I call them. You're right. Are blanketed with pollen all around my neighborhood. It is January. What is happening? And so, it's very easy to just be like, that's climate change, which it is. For sure it is. Okay. But there are other factors too. And so it's interesting that this could also have something to do with it, is the artificial light at night could be confusing all of the plants and telling them that it's a different time of year than it is. Oops.
Wow, like we knew that light has been an issue for insects, that it has got the nocturnal insects confused about where they're going. It's a problem for migration, for the migrating birds and bats and other animals. But now to think that the light that we emit at night, I wonder, is it because a lot of it is that blue temperature, or like, I just wonder what it is about the light that is allowing the plants. Is it just it's light? And so plants are like, dude, days are
Right.
longer. Oh my gosh.
So
Keep
it's tough
working.
because I think we haven't thought too much about it as a society impacting plants because, plants don't have eyeballs. Okay. So you're like, well, how can they see? Of course, we know that they see because they thrive in light, and a lot of plants will die if they don't get light.
Mhm.
But usually it has to be natural light, or at the least a grow lamp that replicates natural light, right?
Mhm.
And so if you just put your fern under a normal incandescent bulb, it's not going to thrive the same way it does outside. And so it's easy to kind of put those things together and go, artificial light doesn't matter because it's not the same as natural light. And plants only respond to natural light. But it would appear that while they may need certain UVs to grow and flourish, they might still be able to sense light and dark. In fact, we know plants can
We know
sense
plants
light
can
and
do
dark
that. Yeah.
because that's also how they sense seasons. It's one
Mhm.
of the many markers that they use to identify seasons is temperature, but also light. And so, like plants open up in the light and close in the dark, some of them, right?
Mhm.
So that's definitely part of it. But I think as humans, it's really easy for us to just be like, they're plants they can't see.
I think, also we've got a bunch of plants that are heliocentric or heliotropic. So they go from, at night they kind of go, oh, the sun's down, and they droop down. And then the sun comes up and they go, ah, and like sunflowers. So you can watch the head of the sunflower move with the sun over across the sky over the course of the day till it droops down at the end of the day again. If we have plants that have, that are the pollen producers and releasers that are also heliotropic, like do we, what kind of responses are we seeing there? I wonder.
Well, you
I
get this.
wonder, right. But what does that mean for the energy that the plants are putting into reproduction, for the energy that, we know animals need to sleep, but what about plants? Like what
Right?
kind? There are a lot of
Yeah.
plants that are the what is it? The CAM3, CAM4 cycling, energy cycling. So there is energy storage, like access and storage, and then metabolism at night.
Right.
And so they have like the light dark cycles where the metabolism happens when the light is off. And so if you don't have the light being off as much, how does that change growth? How does that change how they act? Like, I
Yeah.
have a lot of questions here.
Yeah, and if it's a plant that essentially hibernates, that kind of, wilts up into nothing and then comes out in the spring and looks beautiful, if it does that early and then freezes, what happens, right?
Mhm.
What happens if they release pollen when their pollinator is still hibernating because the artificial light at night?
Do they
Yeah,
keep making it? Like, do they
right.
have it
Or
later?
did they kind of like shoot their wad? Are they done? Was that their shot for the
Yeah.
year?
They're like Alexander Hamilton.
Like
got
Alexander
one
Hamilton?
shot.
One shot.
One
Okay,
shot.
I was like, I don't that sounds like a different version of Hamilton, Kiki, where he
Whatever
okay.
his name is.
I'll leave it here. I had some thoughts, but I'm not gonna say them out loud. Anyway,
Never mind. Yeah, it's about plants too, not just wannabe presidents.
yeah.
Oh my
Alan
gosh.
messing up our plants and causing
No.
all of us to have allergies.
Oh, Alan. Oh, Alan.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
He would respond like that.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, terribly sorry. Oh, 1,000 pardons. Oh, I'll just pop off the light. Apologies.
I really like your Alan impersonation. That's good. That's great. More and more people have electric vehicles, and as much as what's happening here in the US is happening, there is a whole rest of the world where we're at 341 million people in this country of technological advancement, and commerce. There's a whole world out there. China is producing a lot of electric vehicles, solar panels. We have advancement in the field around the globe. Keck School of Medicine of University of Southern California researchers have reported their study in the Lancet Planetary Health of the impact on neighborhoods of the use of electric vehicles. So they basically were looking at the addition. In California, they divided California into 1,692 neighborhoods, kind of similar to zip codes, not exact though. They used publicly available data from the DMV, and they looked at the number of zero emission vehicles registered in each neighborhood. These are full battery electric cars, plug-in hybrids, and fuel cell cars, but not delivery trucks and semi-trucks. They're just looking at cars and personal use vehicles at this point in time. They also used an instrument that's on a satellite. Thanks, NOAA. I bet they're using it. The tropospheric monitoring instrument, TRPOMI. This provides daily global measurements of nitric oxide and other pollutants, and they calculated the annual average nitric oxide levels from 2019 to 2023. And I love to live in a time now where we can say that we've been measuring the effects of zero emission vehicles, that we have enough change in zero emission vehicles in a state to actually be able to look at this like analytically. This to me is very exciting, that it just the time frame and everything, just progress is being made. Okay. Typical neighborhood gained 272 zero emission vehicles. So the spread though, this is the average is 272, but the spread is between 18 vehicles and 839 vehicles. So you can see there's a big variation in probably who in which neighborhoods are able to access these vehicles and purchase them and to change any features of their neighborhood. For every 200 zero emission vehicles registered, nitric oxide levels dropped 1.1%. They showed a very specific improvement in air quality. Nitric oxide is a pollutant that is measurably is demonstrably an influence on people's health. Nitric oxide influences lung health. Nitric oxide is also associated with other pollutants, but they're able to track this particular pollutant in the atmosphere over specific regional areas of California and correlate the gain in zero emission vehicles over that time period and correlate it specifically to a reduction in nitric oxide in those areas. Those areas that had more zero emission vehicles had decreased levels of nitric oxide over the 4 years of the study.
So that's good.
Uh-huh.
I think it confirms something that we all would have assumed, that air quality improves the less cars are, gas cars are in a space. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the part where this gets really tricky is that if you then looked at this data and you examined things like median income and maybe the demographics of the area, you'd start to see some trends
Absolutely.
that are troubling, that are very troubling, because
and I have 18 to 840.
Yeah. Because
that means some areas can pay for it and some can't.
Who can pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
but who has the infrastructure for it? If you live in an apartment building, can you have a plug-in electric vehicle? Most likely you cannot. If you have a single family home, can you have? Yes, you can, right? So if you have a high paying job, are you more likely to have a space where you can park and charge an electric vehicle versus
Mhm.
if you work in, the service industry at an entry level, are they going to let you plug in your leaf there? They're probably not, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
so I think that this is where you're going to see those problems exacerbated, not to mention that
Mhm.
lower income families are going to live in more urban areas
Yes.
where also there's going to be more traffic in general. So the impact of gas cars is going to be felt even more because there will just be more cars on the road around those people. Right. So,
Mhm.
that's part of this too, is this is like a runaway impact, because I would be willing to wager, without looking at the raw data, that the areas where you're seeing these vast improvements in air quality are probably
Mhm.
largely suburban. And it's because there's not as many cars on the road, and now most of them are becoming electric. So it's like a doubling impact almost. It's like a
Mhm.
feedback loop, because you then also don't have random gas cars and buses and semis driving through their neighborhood all the time. So it's
Mhm.
I think it's good news. We have real data here to prove something that we all would have guessed, but now comes the part where we have to get our politics back into our science again, because
So
the infrastructure has to happen.
so here, I mean, this is the worst real world experiment, but California has its own subsidies, but the federal government, as of this year, has gotten rid of all the subsidies for electric vehicles that used to be there to enable the adoption of this new technology so
Right.
that we could enable the transition from gas to electric or to hybrid or whatever, right? And so number one, I like that this isn't only electric vehicles, it's zero emission vehicles. So it includes the hybrids and the fuel cells. So it's like vehicles that are a closed system, not just electric. But all of them are under attack right now. And the subsidies have gone away at the federal level. And so we have a very discrete line that we can take this data from California and see how it changes in the future. Because what you would see is, okay, periods before 2019 or even before that, what did electric vehicle or zero emission vehicle and regular car gas engine adoption look like? What were those curves together until subsidies started? The technology got better and subsidies got better and everything. So that was good, 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 good. We have this new data period. So 2023 is the end of this data period. If they extend what they've just published on to 2024, 2025 into the end of the subsidies, I want to see 2025 to 2030.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to see
Watch
what
the air
happens.
quality plummet again.
That's what I want to see, or not just
Yeah.
plummet, but like you mentioned, what is the difference between the zero emission vehicles and the gas vehicles, and how does the nitric oxide change? Because that is going to be the smoking gun, right? It is going to be the data that says, look, everybody, you want to not have lung cancer, bronchitis, asthma, all these things. You want to have a better atmosphere, then come on, so we thought we had the data up till now, but I mean, now the government has given us an amazing delineation from which to start a new phase of experimentation.
Yep.
I'm just saying. But I like this data. I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful that, I mean, we need this kind of convincing information that can say, hi, look, hey, look, um, these new technologies, they're good for us,
Mhm.
for our societies, for our neighborhoods. And I love the fact that this paper doesn't talk about zip codes, it talks about neighborhoods. That use of a term in a scientific paper, that was well chosen
Yeah.
because that's people in a
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
together. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Moving on from this, another way that you could fight emissions is not to drive, but to take a train.
Uh-huh.
But what if you took a train in India
Uh-huh.
from Goa, where there's king cobras all over the
Sure.
place?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I see what you're hissing at.
You see what I'm where yeah, what I'm hissing at, what I'm opening up here. Um, so these researchers did an analysis of the environmental places that would be most appropriate for king cobras to live within Goa in India. And they had lots of nice ideas about where these snakes should live. And they have lots of natural habitat, but they keep being seen and found other places. And so the researchers are like, why and how are they moving to these different
Oh
places?
yeah, all the way down there at the bottom, far away from anybody else.
Yeah. And so these snakes have been getting on trains.
Love it. Love it.
It's amazing. So they have they didn't find snakes on trains, but what they did find is that there are 47 geo-referenced localities within the state where historically these snakes have been found. 18 localities in North Goa district and 29 in South. These inform what they call the Goa Gap study, a biologically significant region without obvious physical characteristics. And so they're looking at like the suitability of this area for king cobras. So they're looking at climate, vegetation, modeling all sorts of things. There's 5 king cobras records falling along busy railway corridors. And they have reports. Oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. There are reports of snakes on trains and in rail yards, which they call entirely unsuitable reptile habitats.
So the first thing I thought of, I have not been to India.
I haven't either.
But in Europe, specifically I think it was in Italy when I rode the train, the toilets, they just were straight. You could just see the tracks, right? Like there was no...
Are you talking about this is how the snakes get on the train?
That's my assumption, right? Like they're not walking on ticket please, like where all of the people are. Like it seems like you would go up through the toilet, which is terrifying.
That is terrifying. I mean, out in the country, you want to make sure there's no, especially in Australia, you want to make sure there's no spiders in the toilet before you sit down. But
sure.
Additionally, snakes. And so, note to people in Goa, watch out for the snakes on the trains.
For toilet cobras, and that is not a euphemism for something.
Toilet cobras. Watch out for toilet cobras.
No,
everyone.
I don't know. I'm really making that up, but that's all I can do is just like this open hole to the railway. Like it seems like the perfect opportunity. But they also, they have open windows. So there are other places where they can get on there. It just seems like it's dark. There's nobody there. There's usually a door closed when it's parked, and so it's like it'd be very easy to get on without getting around people. Which snakes, reminder, don't want to be where people are. They do not want that.
So what's interesting is the railways, which are unsuitable habitats, but perhaps because of people at railway stations, even though the snakes don't want to be there, there are vermin that are there that are so prey species. And then you also have, trains when they're parked. They are, shade structures. They're places that are dark, and snakes, cobras, we know, like to go into dark, compact places. And
so
so
they can be squished between things.
And so a toilet on a train or some little nook up in the undercarriage of one of the cars seems like it could be a very nice place for, in a hot climate, a snake to want to take refuge. Especially if also, people are dropping poop and snacks underneath the trains, and then the mice and the rats are there, and it just sounds like It
Well,
sounds
and
like it's
is it a
perfect.
place where there's not a lot of water? Do they have water out because there's
No,
people, or
at
are
the
they like,
railway, maybe,
yeah,
but
or is it
railways are very
leaking
dry.
water? Is it
Yeah.
leaking water from the boiler in the train?
Yes.
Do they put out water for the village cat that's in the, it's, whatever. Wherever there's
Mhm.
people, there's stuff that animals are interested in. And so that
Yeah.
goes for snakes too, but mostly, yeah, the vermin and the shade, and that's all good stuff.
But it seems as though, especially on that western coast of Goa, that where there is a north-south train line that runs through up and down, through the country. This is where a lot of the unsuitable habitat is. However, there are a significant number of sightings that have occurred. And so the idea is that, okay, we've seen snakes on the train. We are looking at trains. This is, unsuitable habitat, but maybe snakes are using the trains and they're moving. And this is leading to a movement of the species to different
Yeah.
locations. And so the species is becoming more broadly distributed than it would necessarily be. And will this lead to adaptation? Is the question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Will
'Cause
they,
it's unsuitable.
develop
Mhm.
camouflage that looks like a train ticket? So they let them on the train.
I don't know. I don't think you ask a cobra for a ticket.
Ticket, please.
I like your
You gotta do the double chin.
I'm a king cobra. How
The best way
dare
to
you?
do it,
How
flaring out.
dare you? You're my vassal. I am a king. Who are you? Who do you think you are? My favorite, though, story this week is to do with giant extinct kangaroos.
Great.
What do you know about kangaroo hopping, Blair?
So I mean, how long do you want me to talk about it? Because I can tell you that I spent, I think, 10 years as a tour guide at the zoo telling people that kangaroos don't have kneecaps, and that's not true. That has been debunked. So that's interesting. But I do know that that's like they can't like fully extend their legs. Like they're kind of a funny shape. Their leg bones are very well developed and evolved so that they're the perfect kind of like spring action maneuver. And there are a lot of transitional species of ancient kangaroos, so you can kind of see the development of the bones over the different species. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes. So you have
Okay.
the muscles, you have the kinesthetics, right? So the way that the knee to the ankle, that whole joint moves, the gastrocnemius muscle and the tendon that goes down around the calcaneus uh, protuberance in the ankle or at the end of the foot. Like there's this whole system. And according to this study in Scientific Reports published January 22nd, there have been analyses and hypotheses about how looking into like how big does the kangaroo have to be or can they be before they break their own legs trying to hop. And so the upper limit has been 140 to 160 kilograms. And there's some pretty big kangaroos out there. But when you start looking at ancient giant kangaroos who could be above 250 kilograms, the question related to that, like kind of body mass, body size ratio starts to break down. And so researchers have wondered whether or not ancient giant kangaroos could actually hop, or would they walk on their or try to run on their awkwardly shaped legs.
No.
Like I'm
I
trying to yes, Blair. Yes, this is my brain too.
Where would their tail go? Their entire
dragging on the ground.
like their back and tail structure is completely for hopping. They're doing this with their giant clown feet. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm wondering, right? And so when you see kangaroos really going for it, they're not dragging their tails. Their tails are out behind them, like a cat's
Yeah.
tail is like out behind it when it's running. And they're moving, right? But they're horizontal. They're not as vertical. They're
Yes.
vertical and
Yeah.
in the boxing stance, but when they're
Yeah.
moving, they lean
That's what I'm saying. They're
forward.
like they're very dependent on the forward momentum.
Yes.
They can't, there's not really like when a kangaroo needs to move a short distance, they don't like go slowly. They just bop bop and then they stop. Like there's not really
Mhm.
there's what is the horse term? There's like a walk, what is it? A
Canter.
trot?
Walk,
There's a trot,
canter.
canter, and then a gallop. So
Gallop,
there's no
yeah.
like trot, right? They
Yeah.
really just have like canter and gallop. That's all they have. So they're like whatever the bouncy version of those are. But like if you watch a current kangaroo, they can't move slowly.
And so this is the question. Did the giant kangaroos also always move quickly? Did they always hop? And did they hop or hop long distances? And so researchers have come up with, their estimates of the gastrocnemius tendon safety factor, which is how big you could be before the tendon snaps.
From hopping.
Yeah, it's that's the past idea of the
Like
hop.
because
Because
what's the
hopping,
fail condition for hopping,
yes,
basically?
because they're
Okay.
like the energy of the size of the mass of the body, hopping and landing on the
Oh,
knee and the muscle and the tendon, like how big they think the gastrocnemius was in these ancient giant kangaroos versus how big it is in the modern kangaroos, how
sure.
big the tendon is. Like the ancient fossils, we're having to estimate a whole bunch because all we see very often, the soft tissues don't last. So we see the bones. And so what they're trying to estimate is, okay, we have a bone of this length, this diameter, and then how big is this calcaneus protuberance
Right.
around which the tendon
Right.
attaches? Because
Okay.
that would, and if you have a bigger protuberance, maybe that means you had a bigger tendon and a bigger muscle, and maybe that means your ankle was stronger and the tendon was stronger, and you're able to actually support your weight instead of being a giant kangaroo who just couldn't hop and broke its own legs and just were all giant kangaroos lame? No, they were not. So number one, that I'm annoyed that this is even a question. I'm just letting you know that right now.
Good. I appreciate that because okay, before you tell me what this said, if you saw if all woodpeckers were extinct, okay? All woodpeckers, and you
Yes.
only saw their skull as it exists, would you be like, this thing's got to be hitting its head against, solid objects thousands of times, millions of times a day? Gotta be. It's right there. No one would think that, right? And so, in fact, we are currently still trying to figure out how the woodpecker does it. And every time somebody's like, there's extra. No.
Nope.
We keep nope, they just have a skull. They're just, I don't know, they're adapted to the trauma somehow. We haven't figured it out. But like we have all of the soft tissue. So for this, we don't have the soft tissue. There could be reinforcements. There could be other things going on we don't know about.
Mhm.
Or they could have just adapted to jump.
Yep. Right. We know modern kangaroos jump. So should we assume that ancient giant kangaroos jumped? Did they jump? What was it?
Could they, would they on a hump?
Can ancient kangaroos jump? It's like, the next Spike Lee movie.
Oh, sure. I was going Dr. Seuss. Apologies.
Go with Spike Lee. Yeah, so they looked at the biomechanical limits of hopping in these ancient kangaroos, and in the analysis of the hopper parts, they were able to look at this calcaneum and the metatarsals and the tibia and all these parts of how the foot and the leg all go into place, comparing it across modern species and ancient fossils. And in doing so, they were able to see how what they call the metatarsal 4 safety factor
Sure.
played out. Whether or not the metatarsal breaks or doesn't break. And dun dun dun, lo and behold, no matter what, you don't have any fossils with broken metatarsals.
Right.
So we're looking at animals that were adapted to support their own weight.
Right.
Regardless.
Great. Cool.
Cool. And so they were able to combine ankle extensors, gastrocnemius muscle estimates in modern species and fossils, and look at the minimum force to resist the forces at the ankle, because it's all about, with the forces pulling, what's the resistant force there? So what's the minimum force there? And they were able to come up with a nice ratio of muscle force to body mass and discover that, lo and behold, these kangaroos did a really great job of having the right sized bones and tendons and muscles that
To jump.
And so basically they have a slightly different I guess the line that is there, the of body of force to body, the slope of the line for the muscle force to body mass is like a little bit different for the ancient to the modern species. They're both a little bit different.
Okay.
But they all they're a little bit different, but they all kind of go around the same line. But basically, the bottom line is, yes, the kangaroos had a big calcaneum. And because of that, they could estimate the tendon width,
right,
and also give a nice idea of how the fossil species would be able to actually jump and not break their own legs.
Great.
Yep. So, thanks, science.
Yay.
But it's cool because, it also I love stuff that's like this basic morphology and kinesthetics, because it really is logic, right? And you go, okay, we know this works and we know this is the physics, how it should work. And if everything should work this way, can we break it down? Even though we don't have any living soft tissue from these ancient species, can we figure it out based on bone structure, based on these other things? Can we figure out whether or not giant kangaroos broke their own legs by jumping?
Right. And
they did not.
They figured out it's possible to jump.
But they still think that these giant kangaroos did not jump long distances, hop long distances like modern kangaroos, that they used their hopping for shorter distances.
Well, that makes sense because they're more upright. So it seems like, well, at least based on
they're more
reconstruction.
Charles Barkley than
What?
I don't know. I'm thinking like Charles Barkley versus Scottie Pippen. I don't know.
Okay.
Basketball.
I was like, what does this have to do with basketball? I'm very confused.
Jumping.
They're not from Australia. They don't have pouches. What are you talking about?
I don't follow Australian basketball.
Whoa.
Sorry. Having an attack here. All right. Everyone. Oops. I just gave it to Blair. It's all Blair. Now that we know that giant ancient kangaroos could jump, but they didn't jump all the time. Maybe they didn't jump or hop as much as modern kangaroos. If you enjoy this information, snakes on a train, finding out about all sorts of other things, like what's coming up in the next section, all the monkeys. If you like it, share it with a friend. Tell your friends. and maybe consider supporting us in an ongoing way. Your help does keep this show going, helps us pay for equipment, helps us pay for an editor, helps us like do wonderful things, be here every week. Your support is so valuable to us being here. So any support is wonderful. Head over to twis.org. We have a Patreon link on the page. There's also a Patreon, PayPal link on the page, or Patreon, whichever one you like, you can choose. Patreon will make it so that it's easy in an ongoing fashion. You can support us month to month or give a whole year. Your support ensures that we're here. Thank you for your support. We really can't do it without you. And now it is time for Blair's Animal Corner with Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
I have a story about howler monkeys. Are you familiar with howler monkeys at all?
Are they the ones that do the like they howl?
No, those are Siamangs.
Oh, okay. So this is okay.
Howler monkeys go.
Really?
But they're really, 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 really loud. You should see if you can play some. Actually, it's really great. So howler monkeys. I used to work with them. They're sweet. They're awesome. They have these prehensile tails. They are excellent climbers. They're essentially vegetarians. The males are black and the females are kind of a brownish, orangish color. And they're rainforest animals. They're in a very busy ecosystem, lots of animals. And they are the loudest primate. Part of the reason for that is that they live in rainforests, and so like they have to cut through the chatter, right? And so there was a study done looking at howler monkey signals via their call to see if this was a true identifier of size. So part of this study is interesting, and part of this got me really mad. And so I'm going to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So this all started because, the idea was that howler monkeys are very loud, and therefore they sound big. Okay. This is my issue. We'll get to it. But the idea being, like, if I'm a different animal, if I'm not a howler monkey and I hear a howler monkey, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a big animal. I should steer clear of that animal. Okay.
Right.
These
So
loud,
is this
low
the
frequency roars.
honest signaling question?
Right. So, but they're not. They're like the size of, they're like smaller than a beagle, but bigger than most terriers, I would say. They're like in between. They're like, about a foot long, right? Between a foot and 18 inches, not big. So, without the tail. The tail's very long. But anyway, they're just these guys hanging out in trees. They want to be left alone, but they make these loud sounds. So the researchers wanted to know, is it a true signal of size, or is it something that is misleading to other animals about their size? And then within the species, is it a true signal of size? Are larger howler monkeys louder? So can they judge from one monkey to another based on the sound of their call? They recorded 11 adult males, which is also an issue because the males, one male will have several females in their group, in their troop, whatever you want to call it. And so the males have to compete to be the head of that group. So males' calls are kind of more important than females' calls. They're used for different things. So I would say if you did this study with only males, measured their body mass to see if there was a link between their weight and their how loud they were calling, then there might be something there, right? Because like, are they accurately explaining how big they are with their call? Are they saying, I'm a big guy, right? And so they did that by measuring their formant spacing, which is the difference between the loudest frequencies in the roar, determined by the length of the monkey's throat. So basically, how long their throat is impacts the frequency of the sound they're making. So in theory, there should be a direct relation between how long their throat is, which is a function of how big they are, and the sound that they are making. So they did in fact find that the larger males have lower formant spacing, so they have deeper resonances. Smaller males have higher formant spacing, higher resonances. And so it is a true signal between howler monkeys for the males. Now the females also call, okay? They did not test females.
This is where you're upset.
This is one of the reasons I'm upset. So they did.
The size of their vocal organs.
Sorry about that. I was
They
trying to get some
did-
audio sound here, but
Yeah. They did use females in the other part of the study. There you go.
that's a person.
Something like that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, as a zookeeper, I heard that every day. It's lovely. I think it's really funny because you see them with this big open mouth and you're like, oh, they're making a really cool sound. And it's just like, but it's loud. It is the loudest sound. So, anyway, so then they used, male and female subjects to respond to sounds. The monkeys spent more time looking at the speaker when they were louder and lower sounds. Male subjects roared back. Females did, but like less. And so it seemed like the males were defending their territories. If you had played females calling, would the females have responded? Why do females call? Are females judged by their size? These are questions that were not answered in this study because they only tested males. Maybe
Right.
it's coming later. I don't know. Whatever. The fundamental issue I have with this, and I think part of this is just the narrative that was added to the press release, but I did look at the source material and it is talked about in the abstract as well. So like it was published, is that they tried to draw a parallel, but also like a contrast with how the idea that the sound the howler monkey makes them sound like a big animal. They're saying at its core, the sound that the howler monkey makes them sound bigger than they are. And that's because of this hyoid bone in their throat and an enlarged voice box. And so it makes them sound bigger than they are to other animals, but amongst howler monkeys, they can tell how big they are based on their sounds. Now, here's my problem with this. Why, if I'm a toucan or a spider monkey or a porcupine, why would I assume that that sound is a big animal? Why?
Because of the sounds of all the animals that you hear around you.
One of
I
the
don't know.
loudest animals in the
Yeah.
rainforest is a parrot. Is that a big animal?
No.
Right. So I fundamentally disagree with that hypothesis. Also because if you are an animal that lives in the rainforest, the first time you see a howler monkey making sound, you go, that's the sound a howler monkey makes. And then you're done.
Yeah, you're like, I know who you are. That's it.
I
How'd I
don't
know?
understand this fundamental piece of the narrative of this study. Not to mention, there was no research done testing howler monkey sounds on other animals. So I think it is a very strange angle. It's just part of the narrative. It's not part of the actual science that was done. But I think it's a really weird place to start with this research. If you want to know, like, is howler monkey howls a true signal of size, that is a fine study to do.
With respect to other howler monkeys.
Right.
So I'm a nice, big, strong howler monkey, especially if it's a sexual signal, right? Or for territory, or for just socially, I'm a big dude. Don't mess with me.
Right.
You're bigger. You have a bigger signal. Is that true?
Yeah.
Did they answer that question really?
With males, yes.
With males, but
with
not
males,
females.
it's deeper and louder if you're big.
Right. Because it's not vocal cords, which can be whatever size. It is the size of the organ that supposedly grows with the size of your body. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So supposedly it's an honest signal.
Yes. And that's
males.
interesting. And I think it's evolutionarily advantageous. There's a lot of reasons that this works. And I think it's a very interesting study for that reason. I think that they just took a weird angle.
Narrative.
And I would say continue the study with females. Very good. Continue this study with females. See if something similar is happening with females or not.
I think one of the things that's interesting is if you have the same call, or what sounds like the same call in both sexes, why would you then consider that it is only a call of sexual for mating or for sexual purposes and not for just social signaling generally? But
I don't know.
I got it.
Okay, moving on to Japanese macaques. Do you know what Japanese macaques are, Kiki?
Macaque. Yeah,
you know what they are?
Are these the ones that are the bathing ones in the snow?
They're the hot tub monkeys. Yeah,
love them. They got
they're
pink
so
faces.
cute. Yes. So they're famous for first of all looking like they're wearing a fur coat and muff, just like the cutest. But they live in the snowy mountains of Japan, and they soak in hot springs. Once again, there's parts of the study I find very interesting and parts that I take issue with. So we're going to get into it.
Let's go.
It's always been assumed that they soak in the hot tubs, as it were, the hot springs, to help them stay warm in cold temperatures. Now, I've always had a tiny bit of an issue with that narrative. Can you guess why?
I don't know. Not all monkeys have hot springs. They've got a fur coat. They're going to be wet and cold later after they get out of the hot spring. Hypothermia is a big deal.
There has to be some sort of benefit. To me, I've always assumed there's some sort of benefit beyond just being warm. Because when you get out, you're not staying in that hot spring till spring comes. You have to get out. It's still winter outside. That's the part I've never understood.
Only evolved in this place always forever with hot tubs?
Great question.
Are these macaques found without hot tubs?
Right. So, good question. I don't actually know. I'm going to, we might have to come back to this one because I think that they're prevalent, but geographically there are groups that do and there are groups that don't, because some of them are kind of farther from the hot tubs. So that comes into this study as well, because this study really wanted to look at what are the beneficial pieces to sitting in a hot tub if you're a Japanese macaque. Now, right off, the author's bothering me because hot spring bathing is one of the most unusual behaviors seen in non-human primates. Really? I could probably think of 24 other unusual behaviors that primates do, but that's fine. They're just sitting in a hot tub. I'll toss that one aside. They're trying to make conversation. Seems pretty normal to me. There's hot water. You're cold. You're just sitting in the hot tub. But there's always been kind of a suspicion that there's other things going on, that's beneficial to them for sitting in the hot tub. And so researchers decided to look at associated parasites on their body. Like, are they removing parasites because they're cooking them off? And also looking at their microbial communities. Is there something about sitting in the hot tub that changes their microbiome? So over 2 winters, they followed a group of female macaques. They looked at those who regularly bathed in hot springs and those who did not. And so they looked at behavioral observations to see who's in the hot spring, of course, parasite monitoring, and gut microbiome sequencing. And they wanted to see if bathing influences all of these kinds of different things. And so I'm going to switch from a very small section of the paper that I can actually read that isn't a press release before it cuts me off because I didn't pay for it. So this is between December 2019 and March 2021 is when they looked at this, and they looked at the relationship between the hot tubbing and lice load, gastrointestinal parasitism, and the gut microbiome. They collected fecal samples. They did vary by age, reproductive status, and social rank. They also looked at nitpicking rates, which they used to estimate the lice load. So that's how they figured out, do you have more or less lice from sitting in the hot tub? And then they also looked at parasites in the GI tract. I said that before. And then they looked at the gut microbiome between bathers and non-bathers, which overall the diversity level was the same, but there were specific genera of microbes that were more abundant in the non-bathers. So there were 4 groups of bacteria in the microbiome that were absent in bathers, prevalent in non-bathers. Overall, there were less lice in the bathers. And so, in general, less harmful parasites. And in past studies, there was actually an expectation that there would be increased exposure to parasites in the hot tub. We know how gross human hot tubs are.
Yeah. If they're not taken care of.
Right. So
human soup. Yum.
Yeah. So in the end, sorry, I have to mute. In the end, it looks like on the whole, those who are hot tubbing seem to have less lice, 4 less species of gut bacteria, and less parasites in general. So it does seem like the hot tubs are beneficial to them. This is where I have questions because there's a correlation. This is what we've drawn here. Is a correlation. And so we're going to have the same conversation we always have.
Yes.
Are they sick and therefore they don't want a hot tub because they don't feel good?
Or do they hot tub to feel better?
Do they hot tub to feel better? Is it making them feel better? Yep. Are we sure that the 4 species or the 4 genera of bacteria in their bellies that are absent in hot tubbers, that the hot tubbers are actually better off? Are we sure those are non-beneficial bacteria?
That's a great question. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are the lice ratios different in hot tubbers because it's a social activity? And those who feel yucky, a lot of animals who don't feel well, recede from social activities. There's a lot of things going on here. What we know right now is this correlation. The study has identified a correlation. There are these very specific factors where the monkeys look healthier, if you want to use that term, or you can just say less parasites, different microbiome in the macaques who are hot tubbing. The next step, if you ask me, is to find out why.
Right. So there were these monkeys also. I remember there was a study that you brought, like, I don't know, years ago, I think, related to the hot tubbing. And at the time, I just found this study, and it was dominant females would spend more time hot tubbing. They were also more aggressive, and so they had higher stress, but the hot tubbing seemed to correlate with reducing their stress levels. So their cortisol went down when they hot tubbed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I
A
love
study
it.
from 2018,
Oh my
also in the journal
goodness.
Primates.
Huh.
And they hot
Yeah.
tub more often in the winter than in spring, and more during colder weeks.
Yeah.
Dominant
Okay.
females like kept their dominance by like being like, get out, step off. You don't get to share the hot tub with me, lady. And
Yeah.
like, being dominant and everything. But then
You
they were all
can.
stressed
You
out.
come pick the nits off me. Thank
And
you.
then they had to stay in the hot tub longer because
Yeah.
they were stressed out, and that chilled them out a bit. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just for real, stay until spring. Yeah, so I don't know. There's some interesting conclusions drawn in this particular paper, but I think that, at its base, I think it was a great idea to study parasite loads and microbiome, because hot tubbing, there are also like
mhm.
specific bacteria that live in and around hot springs too.
Yes.
So
But I also
becomes-
wonder about
yeah.
all of this, because these hot springs these are locations where tourists come, and there is
sure.
like,
Yeah.
how much of these studies were with macaques in isolated hot springs where there are no humans, where there's no extra
Right.
food, where there's no like interaction with other species, where it's just them doing
Yeah.
their thing.
No, that's another really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, as
Yeah,
much
I know.
as people say, don't touch the monkeys, don't interact with the monkeys, don't mess with people, mess with them. It's
Yeah, of course.
a human thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humans be messing. Anyway, my last monkey story of the evening.
no, we gotta stop monkeying around.
I know, just for now.
Okay.
Is that spider monkeys? Hey, monkeys are smart. Did you know that?
Yeah.
They're kind of methodical about how they forage an area. They try to like map out the area, find the best food. And they do it with very specific kind of like social networks, if you want to call it, or specific foraging groups where they kind of divide and conquer a map. And so they don't follow each other around a space. They don't kind of just wander aimlessly around a forest. Who thought this, guys?
Where am I? I'm a monkey. I don't know where
Do you
I
think
am.
Monkeys
How do
are
I
the
find
same as
food?
like human toddlers, because they're not. It's anyway. The movements, they actually seem to complement each other, and so they all kind of explore different areas with very slight overlap, and then they kind of come together at the end and all kind of share what they learned. So it's so they have a very specific kind of map that they cover to do their foraging, with a home base that they all overlap with in the middle. It's like a 4-part Venn diagram. It's lovely.
I love it. It's a Venn diagram that's all weird shapes.
Yeah, absolutely. And they stay enough apart so that they can scout their own area. There's not a significant overlap. They don't waste their efforts, but they're close enough so that they can touch base. They can share what they learned. And I assume it's not written here, but they can benefit from the protection of being in a larger group as well. So it's tough out there for a smaller monkey in a forest. So I would say that's definitely part of it too, is maintaining safety.
Mhm.
But I just love to see that there's some methodical methods to how they search, which, not to always bring it back to this, but I did take care of animals for a pretty long time, and part of my job as a zookeeper was to provide enrichment, which is some sort of way to kind of make them use their brains and their bodies and their adaptations to kind of exercise all those things. It helps with their quality of life.
Mhm.
And so for animals that are foragers like monkeys, you would hide food throughout the exhibit. And you try to do it in different ways and with different tools and with different obstacles. And the way that they would search their enclosure would be methodical. They might go back to places they were before if they feel like they missed something, but they didn't just kind of like open this over here, walk over there, walk over to the top, climb down to the bottom and then go, right? It was methodical. They would kind of clear zones as they would look through the exhibit. And then they might go back, but ultimately it was pretty fun to watch because they did make sure that they got to everything. They were like, oh, this is new. All right, let me check this out. No, nothing under there. Oh, that looks like that over there. Let me go check. Okay. All right, I'm done on this branch. Let me go to this branch. Like it was very methodical. And so this tracks to me.
I wonder if they would be better than kids at an Easter egg hunt.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. No question.
Kids just scatter out and just start looking.
Yeah. Also, like, that's mine. Like, especially animals that live in an enclosure together. A lot of the time, if one of them is like, nah, that's mine, it takes it. The other one's like, okay. And then goes and gets something else. Definitely on to the next. Not worth the fight.
So they've got these overlapping ranges.
Yeah.
But were they sharing? Were they like helping each other? Like there's this overlap.
Yeah.
Does that suggest that they were like that they're helping because they overlap, they're like helping each other somehow, or it's just they have a place where they all congregate at some
Yes,
point?
I would assume that is a social component. They're checking on each other because also, I'm sorry to talk about it in such plain terms, everybody, but like part of living in the wild, especially in a social group, is like, did anybody get eaten?
Yeah.
Are we all still here? And so
like what train cobra took out Bob?
Right.
Like,
exactly. So
we
that's
knew
part of it is
we knew there was a train cobra.
That's a lot of animals. When you see animals like checking on each other or calling out to each other, it's, did anyone get eaten? I'm still here.
It's like the opposite of Marco Polo, right? Where in Marco Polo, you're doing Marco Polo like as that check-in, but with the goal of actually finding the person who's trying to hide from you.
Yeah.
But in the animal world, the animals are just out there doing their thing, and they're not just hiding from you. They're hiding from a predator, but they're talking to each other. And so they've got a view of their space because of that interaction.
Yeah. The forest is a tough place to live.
But I love these so like there's one graphic that shows the overlaps of different individuals over dry seasons and wet seasons. And it's almost like a topo map with all of these different like shapes. But they all have, like you said, like that Venn diagram intersection area.
Yeah.
Where that's where they get to know each other. That's where they all check in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did your work with spider monkeys in the zoo, like at night, do they come back together like crows in the wintertime? Do they roost together, or are they individuals? Or are they like small groups within a big group?
I never worked with spider monkeys, but I worked with squirrel monkeys, which that was a large group. There was like 20 monkeys. And so they had their own little cliques. And the cliques would come back together at night to sleep. So we had like 5 or 7 monkeys that like to sleep inside. We had the 4 monkeys that like this one heat lamp up at the top of the exhibit outside. We had the 3 or 4 monkeys that liked to be closer down towards the ground, towards that heat lamp. We had the monkeys that like to kind of guard the door to make sure the inside guys stayed inside. There were very specific groups, and I would know in the morning who was going to be inside, who was going to be outside, and where, because they had their little friend groups.
Interesting. Yeah, because we know, especially with the smaller monkeys, that it's like birds. there is safety in numbers.
Yes.
And also, I mean, the jungle's probably different, but during the wet or colder seasons, you want to huddle together and mass your body temperature. So I just wonder, I'm just curious about that. But
yeah, well, and I'll also tell you the indoors contingent was mostly the older ones. It was like the monkey retirement home. They were all like, I'm too old.
It's Florida. The snowbirds, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's where it was the warmest, was inside.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Monkey snowbirds.
Yeah.
Moving on from monkeys, I'm going to jump to the brain for the last couple of stories.
Brain me up.
I'm gonna brain you up, Blair. So have you heard of the brain before? Yes. I talk a lot about the cerebral cortex, and then like the older areas of the brain, the midbrain, and other areas that are involved in emotions like the amygdala and the hypothalamus, and then you have like your basic like hindbrain structures, the pons and other things that control your sleep and your dreaming and all those. But there's that area of the brain that like it's like the back at the bottom, and we don't pay attention to it that much. It's called the cerebellum, and it is mainly talked about when we talk about deficits of movement. So when people have movement disorders, when things go wrong with basically motion in the human, it's always the cerebellum. Like Parkinson's is a dopamine disorder, and the tremors that come from that are related to the dopaminergic neurons. But this is all eventually tied back to the cerebellum. And there are all cerebellar ataxias and all sorts of things that are. Cerebellum is this part of the brain that we don't talk about enough. The cerebellum is essential to the process of forgetting, which I think is one of the most interesting and fabulous things, because we always talk about memory. It's so important, but it's also really important to forget stuff. So you have to have signals that erase information and make sure that the pruning of those synapses in networks is the way it needs to be so that you can function in a survival kind of way, right? So interestingly, I'd heard of the cerebellum being involved because of the movement aspect in language. So that there is a part of cerebellar function involved in production of language. So my vocal cords, my muscles, all the things that are involved in the processes.
Movement in language? Okay, got it.
I'm moving my jaw, my lips, there's a whole bunch of stuff. My vocal cords are changing. There's a lot of coordination that's going on right now just to be able to create these sounds. And our cerebellum is involved in that because a lot of that coordination is modified and managed by the cerebellum, which is fascinating. Birds also have a very highly innervated cerebellum. It's very interesting also.
Okay.
New study out in Neuron, they have determined that there are 4 regions in the right posterior cerebellum that reliably respond to language. There is a region that is highly selective for language, and not just the production of language, but the interpretation and understanding of language as well.
Okay.
These areas of the cerebellum are functionally connected to the neocortical language system. And so this is the first time that someone is proposing that there are cerebellar regions, these areas that are basically essential to our language network. One region almost mirrors the neocortical network, Broca's area and whatever, which are essential within the neocortices for understanding and production of language. And like all of the talk about language, it's always neocortex. It's always this like more advanced, higher brain area. And so they say that there's one area that is inextricably tied to the neocortical network for understanding and production, but the rest are also plausibly integrating, and this is from the abstract, information from diverse neocortical regions.
So,
Yeah.
language is something that a lot of people like to think about as uniquely human.
Yes.
I say a lot of people because obviously I don't.
Well, I mean,
and there's been
I'm a bird
lot of
researcher,
studies-
so like bird
Yeah.
song, right? Come on.
And there's been a lot
Yeah.
of studies on different types of languages and different animals, and not to mention that a lot of birds, specifically parrots and some crows, have been taught words. There are dogs that you can teach words and sentences to, right? And so knowing all of that, this kind of like hind brain idea of there being language tracks, because there's actually something that is pretty universal to life in being able to communicate with other individuals of your species.
Yep. And why would it only be a higher,
Right.
a higher level cognitive function,
Yeah.
right? Why
Yeah.
not? Why not? I mean, we've got bees who communicate through waggle dancing
Yeah.
and they're buzzing and like, that is language. It's body language. It may be, an innate way that they communicate, and it's a program of sorts, and not as dynamic as, say, bird song or human language, but there are signals, right?
Right. And it's tied to movement.
Like, yes,
So there
signals
you go.
tied to movement. So, and also
Yeah.
not just production of, but also understanding of. So the sensory reception, understanding of, and potential response, or just pushing it out into the world. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I mean, the brain, the whole idea of sectioning off the brain into all these different areas. This is here and that's that. It's okay.
I mean, for me, like the way I see this is this allows us more understanding potentially of disabilities in humans of language. So whereas previously we were like, oh, there's a little bit of language stuff in the cerebellum, but really it's the cortex. That's where we're looking. And so when somebody is unable to communicate, it's definitely a problem in the cortex, right?
Right.
But if you have a person who definitely has a problem in the cortex, but you can't find that problem, maybe that problem is actually somewhere else, but you didn't know to look somewhere else. So hopefully what this does is begins to allow a more complex understanding of the redundant systems and the complementary systems within the brain to allow these higher function processes to take place. And, I don't know, I hope to see a lot more about, for years, like I have wanted to see more by researchers about the cerebellum. So this is,
That's awesome.
Cerebellum's like old, ancient brain.
Yeah. And I think that's like the weird, like elitist thing about brain science. I feel like sometimes is that there's an ulterior motive, or there was, maybe there's less now, but I feel like there is often an ulterior motive to figure out why humans are superior to other animals. And that was the whole point of brain science, right?
Yeah.
And so like, if you look in the hindbrain for things, then you're not doing that. So if you look in the ancient brain, then you're doing the opposite. If you find things. So you're looking for things where you want to find them in historical brain science. And so like, it's
our big cortex. That's where we need to find stuff, right?
Big front brain makes smart.
What I love though, like birds, we use birds as a model system for human speech production because the bird song system is very like a lot of the structures and the pathways are like parallel to mammalian or human vocal pathways. And so it's fascinating as well because bird brains, they don't have a cortex the way we do, but they have way more neurons packed into a little tiny space. And so it's like they're just magic brain creatures. I love them. Anyway, cerebellum, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And they have big cerebellums too. So I want to now know what bird cerebellums are doing involved in bird
yeah.
song. So let's do more of this.
sure.
I want more research. New study out. Let's see. Nature NPJ. I don't know what this NPJ Parkinson's disease. Nature. This is published out of Nature, January 24th. Open access. Microplastics and Parkinson's disease.
Oh no.
Yeah, so they were looking at microplastics and nanoplastics, and bottom line is that they might accelerate initiation and progression of Parkinson's disease by facilitating alpha-synuclein misfolding and aggregation. They were looking at a bunch of brains and exposure to plastic-related pollutants and trying to figure all this stuff out. Yeah, basically, we still need to identify neuropathological mechanisms. There's data available now, but the idea is that there need to be more studies, but this study that was published suggests that there's a lot of reason to believe that microplastics and nanoplastics getting into the circulatory system and the blood and brain system may be leading to pathology and symptom onset. So
I think it's safe to say that microplastics in your blood can make a lot of pathology more likely.
yeah.
It could just lower your immune system, if nothing else.
Right. Or it makes your immune system more reactive, right? So that you have hyperinflation, inflammation more of the time, so that you're just constantly, your body's it's like having allergies all the time, but your body is constantly trying to fight something off. So when something comes, maybe there is a cascade response because it's already at the point of threshold to disease.
Yeah.
And from Parkinson's disease, there was another paper that came out related to this idea of being able to detect Parkinson's disease early from blood samples and to be able to detect, say, oh, you've got a lot of plastic in your brain. Are you at risk of Parkinson's disease? And so there are tests now being done to be able to find symptoms earlier than when we are finding them for diagnosis. And so for dementia and Parkinson's disease, what we are now seeing is that there is what they call a prodrome period that can be over a decade long, where basically it's small bits of damage that are occurring over time until you get to the point of actually being able to be diagnosed based on modern criteria for dementia or Parkinson's disease. And there is a study that was just published in Brain Sciences and MDPI research, detecting dementia using lexical analysis. Terry Pratchett's Discworld tells a more personal story. Have you read any Terry Pratchett books?
I just started a few months ago. Yeah, I just finished Going Postal. I'm about to do my next one. Yeah.
There are so many books. He was a prolific author, and the Discworld universe is massive. So there are series of books. They're all out of order because he didn't write them all in order, but there's series of books related to magic and wishes. There's guards and, politics. There's the
post office.
The post office, like all this stuff related to the system of this Discworld and how it all works together. And so he wrote all these books over decades. these researchers followed his work and did lexical analysis of his vocabulary and the complexity of his ideas over years and through his bibliography. And they found that there's a certain point 10 years prior to his dementia diagnosis that they can pinpoint changes, like actual significant changes in the writing.
Well, and we're sure he didn't change his editor or publisher around that time.
I'm not sure about any of that, but these researchers, they enjoy Terry Pratchett, but they did find that there was a clear and statistically significant decline in the diversity of adjectives he used. The richness of descriptive language gradually narrowed. And this isn't something that any casual reader would necessarily notice right away. But because they were specifically, looking at how many words, what kind of words, how, they're looking at the analysis linguistically and lexically, they're able to say that there is a significance, but this is definitely, his diagnosis wasn't for another 10 years.
Right.
After.
Sounds like someone got paid to read Terry Pratchett books as their research.
But bottom line, people kept enjoying his books for another 10 years. Yeah. Although my husband did say that one of the books that they talk about in this article on The Conversation that is written by the study authors, there's like a particular book, The Last Continent. It's the first significant drop that appeared in their data. It's almost 10 years before. And my husband said that was the first Terry Pratchett book that he put down and he couldn't finish. So I found, not that the N of one of my husband is.
Yeah, sure. Anecdotally, that's pretty interesting though.
Anecdotally, he was like, that's the book. Oh my gosh. And I was like, okay, wow. Yeah. But the bottom line is that there's a growing appreciation for early indicators and early markers of cognitive decline. And so the excitement that I have is that I think people are going to be able to put together more and better tests of our cognitive complexity, our cognitive function, to be able to help us live longer, better. Because if you catch dementia or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, MS, if you catch diseases in their early onset, there are drugs currently available that can slow the decline and that can allow you to live longer, better. And maybe more drugs and more treatments will become available to people in that time. So the more we're able to pay attention to these little markers of decline that are usually not a big deal, the better and healthier we might be longer. But it doesn't matter if you don't care. Like whatever.
I think it's a lot easier to do in retrospect than it is to catch a change like that as it's happening. So I think that's really where this is going to get interesting, is if they can find a way to measure that in real time. Which, how do you measure that in real time without giving away your privacy and letting your phone listen to every word that you say in your whole life? And then your phone's going to say, I noticed a 10% decline in adjectives over the last 6 months. Like how would that be measured or caught? Right. So that, I think that's the other practicality piece of this, is we have an oeuvre by this person who wrote like dozens of books a year. No, that's too many.
No,
but he wrote
prolific.
So many books.
Yep.
That the
and
amount
not everybody does
books,
that.
Right. And then you can, also that he had dementia, and we know when it started to exhibit itself and he started to have trouble writing. And so you can kind of look backwards on it, but looking forwards is way more difficult.
I can't wait until like AI can go back and analyze all of the TWIS episodes to tell me when I hit perimenopause, menopause, dementia,
well, it also has
figured out she had ADHD. Oh my gosh.
But also both of us have sleep deprivation, newborn times.
Baby happened. Yes.
'Cause I know my vocabulary wasn't as good
Oh my
when I
God.
first came back. So,
Oh, the brain fog. Let me
yeah.
tell you.
Anyway.
It comes and it goes. It does. But as we're looking at the future, looking at the past as well, this last study, very quickly, researchers publishing in Cognitive Science, their study asymmetric anticipatory emotions and economic preferences, dread, savoring risk, and time. Bottom line is that they figured out that, as we well know, dread is more powerful than savoring things. So, the pain, or what the kind of estimated pain that people would have for an outcome, um, way like 10 times outweighed whatever they anticipated a pleasure might be. So any displeasure or pleasure, the bad outcome, always in our minds, our minds always rank it as way, way worse. So whether or not it's okay, you've got a decision. If you choose decision 1, you're gonna make $10.
Mhm.
If you choose decision 2, you're gonna lose $10. People are gonna see the loss of $10, even though it's the same amount in both directions. The loss of $10 is gonna hit harder than the anticipation of the gain of 10.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just fascinating from the perspective of where we are now in our society with what we have, right? And the haves and the have-nots. And so the idea of what we might lose. And so I just think understanding ourselves at this moment in time and knowing that the human brain, and it's not any one of us individually, it is the human psyche. The human psyche is set up to not want loss.
Mhm.
We like dread. We don't want to dread things. That it makes us hurt. Like we feel it every day, right? Something negative in the future makes us scared, makes us sad.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's why we're at this situation
Mhm.
that we're in right now, is because for many years ad executives, but now
Mhm.
a lot of politicians know that negative emotions fuel instant action because it's
Yes.
very
Yep.
strong. The thing is, positive emotions fuel lasting action. So it's
Yeah.
less strong in the moment, but it creates more long-term effects. So like that's exactly what this is studying, right? Is that like dread aversion is high,
Yep.
but there's a reason you put money in your savings account for your retirement. Like long-term thinking, the positive emotions are very strong. But in short-term thinking, negative emotions rule the day, which is why it is so difficult when you have good intentions and also truth on your side, and then the opposite side has fear mongering and
Mhm.
lies on their side, because they can immediately key into that dread aversion. That is the problem with climate change. That is why climate denial has been so successful up to this
It's
point,
it's
is
why,
dread aversion.
because people want certainty. They
Yeah.
don't want uncertainty, right? And so climate change is a very kind of like uncertain thing. This could happen, that could happen. We think this will happen, but look at this big error bar. Like, what is going to happen? Um, yeah, uncertainty that's risk, right? And so loss aversion, risk aversion, dread aversion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
And
tied
yeah.
together.
And
And
it's important
so,
to know that that's how your
Mhm.
brain works, so you can kind of like stay measured.
Yeah, and it gets into kind of why it's why people want certainty in the news, in their
Yeah.
world. It's why people also are, even with the social media and 24-hour news cycle that we have, why people are always impatient also. It needs to be now. It can't be later. Because if you know now, then you're more certain, your risk is less, your loss is less, as opposed to it could be more later. Right? Yeah. So I just think it's very, very important for us to understand the human psyche and where we're coming from. There are lots of ways that we can work with ourselves to acknowledge where we are, who we are, how we work in the world individually, but to be able to look at the way we react to a moment and ask ourselves, am I reacting to this because I'm afraid of losing something? I'm dreading. Am I dreading? Wow. Oh, I'm dreading something. Okay. Why? What am I afraid of losing? What is, when you can start to actually cognitively, rationally explain your feelings, it goes a long way for being able to exist in the current moment.
Yeah, and I do also love the binary that you brought up in the study as an example of like losing $10 or gaining $10. If you can find a way to do that with other things that you're thinking about, is like, well, what if I get fired? Well, what if I get promoted? Like, think about the opposite, because our brains are wired to think about the negative. Like, if I lost $10, I might be thinking about it in 5 days. But if I found $10 or if I gained $10, I probably forget about it by tomorrow.
Right.
So you have to force yourself to think about it. If you are dreading something, if you're worried about something, if you're spiraling about something, force yourself to think about the binary opposite that is positive.
And to think more often about the positive. And I think this is why the gratitude exercises work. The mindfulness, there may be questions about, why and how mindfulness works, right? So there's lots of pop science controversy around that. However, it has been shown over and over again that people who do take moments to consciously address the things that they are grateful for tend to have a positiver. That was a really good word there. Yeah. A more positive outlook on the world every day. It helps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So our brains they like negative a lot, because when you're afraid of the negative, when you're risk avoidant, you're probably going to survive better. But you're not
absolutely.
You're not going to survive calmer. You're not going to survive, in our modern world more happily. Not that we need to be happy, but with satisfaction.
There's amounts of stress. There's amounts of cortisol that are healthy, right? And so this is also something you learn when you take care of animals in captivity, is like, not all stress is negative. Some is positive. You need cortisol, but you can't be in a constant state of stress and fear. And so our lives have, unfortunately, over time, thanks Industrial Revolution, been designed to be like cortisol machines. Like, you're carrying something around in your pocket that will randomly call on you to do things at any time. Anybody could do it. When you open it, you see things that stress you out. You go to a job for too many hours a day that tell you to do things all day long, faster, better. You are expected to do that and balance a home life. You have a monetary system that is built for you to fail. And so you are just stuck in a cortisol loop, because that is the space that we are in. And I don't say that to make you feel hopeless. That is not my intention. My intention is to name it so that you can recognize that if you don't do something about it, you will be stuck in a stress loop.
I think we need more hot tubs.
Yes.
Banyas, like sauna.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Come on,
let's find a hot tub right now.
I highly recommend a Korean or a Japanese spa. There is an amazing one in San Francisco, like a Korean spa over. It's amazing. 21st in Folsom? No, I don't remember. I probably am forgetting that right now, but it's been too long. But it's one of the most amazing places, just so you know, for the ladies. I think we've come to the end of the show. I know everyone was dreading it.
Ah.
Ha ha ha. But we have come to the end of the show, and I hope everyone enjoyed the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed our conversation,
Yeah, how
the fun that we
lovely.
had. Take a moment of gratitude for the science in the world that helps us understand ourselves and the universe a little bit more. Blair, though, we
Yeah.
were talking about climate a little bit
Oh,
and how to
yeah.
talk about things, and you had a little piece of news, so
Yeah, I was
share,
going to
share.
talk about it last week, but I was very sick.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, what time is it even? I don't remember. I'm going to put a link
It
in
says 10
all the
a.m.
various
Pacific.
chats. Yes, so it's at what is that?
Yeah.
1 Eastern. So I put a Zoom registration in the notes, or in the chats, in the various chats. But also, if you go to any of my social medias, I shared them out today. Anybody can sign up. It is a panel on podcasting climate communication. So this is through the National Network for Ocean and Climate Change Interpretation. I've been a member since 2014. I am an expert level trainer. I have led study circles and other trainings. I used to be on the governing council. So very, very deep in the NOKI strata. And so I will be on the panel with two lovely individuals, Kate Bergenthal and Lauren Watkins. And they both have podcasts of their own. And so we will all be talking about what it is like to podcast about climate change. And so, yeah, so if that's something that you're interested in hearing about, or if you know somebody who would be interested, there's a couple different angles. We're going to be talking about, if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, some things to consider, but also what kind of resources are out there, what kind of podcasts exist if you're a podcast listener and you're looking for ways to hear more about climate change, or if you want to use any of that information to just become a better climate communicator on your own. So that is all there. It'll be a tight hour. It's a nice little panel setup. So it's just a Q&A of sorts.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you just share that link with me through LinkedIn or something?
Yeah.
So I can
course.
share it and
Yeah.
not forget about it, because with my brain, my little brain that forgets things.
I
That would be
know,
great.
it's so tough.
I would like to share that on the social media, because I think there are a lot of communicators who would be interested in this.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. But as we're moving forward, if you're interested, make sure you do register for that. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining, for listening. Listeners who will be listening to this later, will there be a recording of this panel?
I don't know.
For other people who
I don't know, but if there is, I will share it on social media for sure.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Blair.
Mm-hmm.
And my shout outs to everyone who's here. Thank you for being in the chat rooms. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for another episode and keeping the chat room a kind, respectful place to talk about science. Make jokes, of course, but respect each other. And I appreciate the way that this show and this conversation worked together tonight and on so many other nights. Thank you, Fada, for your help with show notes and with social media. Gord, Arenlor, others who do really help to monitor the chat rooms in the various places. Thank you for doing that. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. And Rachel, thank you so much for editing the show. And additionally, of course, I must thank our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Aaron Anathema, Adam Mishkan, Alan Viola, Ali Coffin, Andrew Swanson, Artem, Arthur Kepler, Bob Calder, Bob Coles, Brendan Minish, Brian Carrington, Chris Wozniak, Christopher Dreyer, Christopher Rappin, Craig Landon, Craig Potts, Daryl Myshak, Dave Wilkinson, David E. Youngblood, Don Mundis, Jonathan Skiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, E.O., Eden Mundell, Eric Knapp, Flying Out, Fredis 104, G. Burton Lattimore, George Chorus, Greg Briggs, Jack, Jason Olds, John Atwood, John McKee, John Ratnaswamy, Johnny Gridley, Ken Hayes, Kent Northcote, Kevin Perchan, Kevin Reardon, Kurt Larson, Lon Makes, Lauren Gifford, Marjorie Gertz, Mary Gertz, Marjorie, Mark Hessenplow, Mark Jenkins, Noodles, Patrick Pecoraro, Paulie Disney, Paul Ronovich, Philip Shane, Pierre Velazar, Richard Badge, Robert Norland, Robert Farley, Rodney Lewis, Rudy Garcia, Remy Day, Sean Clarence Lamb, Shoe Bruce, Stephen Alberon, Steve Leeson, a.k.a. Zima, Sue Doster, Teresa Smith, Tony Steele, and Vagard Shefstad. Thank you.
Heard some new names.
Thank you so much for your support of TWIS on Patreon. And if anyone out there is interested in helping us out and supporting us on Patreon, head over to twis.org and click on the Patreon link. On next week's show,
we will be back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting live from our Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels.
Oh, yeah. Want to listen to us as a podcast? You can find us everywhere. Just look for This Week in Science wherever you like to find podcasts, and get your friends to subscribe as well. That really helps.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org. You can also sign up for a newsletter that will come out at some point.
You know, I have so many ideas all the time, and then I don't do
like
it.
the 17-year cicada. It will emerge.
Oh, that is a good analogy. Oh, boy. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, or a suggestion for an interview, please let us know on one of our social media accounts, or send us an email. Just put TWIS in the subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into the belly of a train riding king cobra. I'm not going to look for it, especially not in the toilet on the train. Nope.
We look forward to discussing science with you again next week. And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.